I'm Sarah Brack, and this is my horse Blondie. Today we're going to talk about standing wraps, polos, and stack wraps, and we're also going to talk about wound care and how to wrap a abscessed foot. But the reason why we do wrap is for protection. It is not a support system at all for the horse, but it is a protection. So for polos, it's whenever they're like cantering and they hit themselves, it's hitting the polo and not their leg itself. But also you want to make sure you do it correctly, because if you do it too tight, you can cord the horse, which creates no food for the fiber tendon and the tendons, creating them to go dead. And if you do it too loose, it could start wrapping around the other leg as it is cantering, thus creating more problems. So you want to find a perfect medium between both for the polos. And for the standing and static, you also want to find a perfect, because they're in a stall majority of the time. So you don't want them to be too loose to where it can fall off and then it has no purpose, or too tight to where it can cord, like with the polo, where no blood flow could get to the tendon, creating it to suffocate, to die. So we're going to go over polos. So we're going to start a little bit below the knee and the inside to go over the cannon bone, opposed to going around onto the tendon to where it has a higher tension to get cording if you start that way, opposed to going over the bone. You can't really lose blood flow. But you start lower, so when you come back up, you cover it, and if you don't, then the inside of the wrap will start coming out. So you also want to make sure you have even tension all the way through, so making even spacing between each one. Also, you want to make sure it's flat and not wrinkled, because if it is wrinkled, it can cause, when the horse gets all hot and sweaty, it can start irritating the horse. So now we're getting to the point where I'm going to start going downward, right in the front, and we're going to go down low, so then it can't hurt the ergot where they usually hurt themselves the most. And then come back up, creating that V in the middle, because that is where they're going to do most of the flexing. And then you're going to go back up, making sure you have even tension. And if you don't do even spacings, then it can cause uneven tension, which can also create cording. Coming back up. Also make sure, as you see, I'm making sure there's no wrinkles as I'm going up. And I did go higher than where my beginning point was. So to check to make sure you did it right is you're able to stick 2 fingers in on the top and at the bottom. And you can like twist it, move it up and down. So I'd say it's on good. And we also do it because when the horse is working, if you did it too loose and the horse is cantering, it could wrap around the other horse, creating more damage. And if it was too tight, again, it could cord, losing flow to the tendon, creating it to die. So now we're going to talk about standing wraps. The time that you would use these is when you have a wound on the cannon bone or around that area, and to keep it clean. You can also use it for sweats and poultices, and also people at horse shows would put them on their horses just to keep their legs nice and clean for the show ring. The times when we would not use them is during turnout and exercises, when they're being exercised, because you don't really get a lot of movement through the standing wrap. And I'm going to be using a quilted pad, which has lining quilted inside of it and not on the outside, which keeps the padding even within it, and then a track wrap. So for starting this, we're going to start right below the knee on the inside, going over the bone, keeping it tight, There are also other types of padding, which is the Nobos, which can be kind of dangerous to use because they can actually board the horse because there's no extra padding in it. And then going around just like the polo, trying to make it nice and even. There are other types of wraps as well to cover your padding. There is the knitted, which you're going to need a lot of experience on because they are harder to make sure they're nice and even. Still making sure there's no wrinkles throughout the bandaging. About a half an inch of padding at the bottom. Going back up. So because I went so far down, which is different from the polo, is that the horse will not have a lot of movement within this. Usually if they do have this on, it's because they're just going to stand in a stall. And you're going to want to have half an inch on the top as well. The way to check is to go side to side and see if it moves up and down. Put 2 fingers on the top and 2 fingers on the bottom. And then click to see if it is evenly. So now we're going to go over stack wraps. The reason why we'd use a stack wrap is if there's a wound higher than the knee and that a standing wrap could not reach. So I have my quilted pad, and I'm going to start on the inside. I'm going to go a little bit lower down to where it will hit the coronary band. The reason why we want to go a little bit lower down is because right after the pastern, it gets narrower, which creates more of an anchor. And again, we want to leave half an inch at the bottom. Work our way back up. You want to make sure you keep even tension, even spacing. And you want to make sure the Velcro stops at the top because for the stack, we're going to put another one on top. And we want to make sure that the wrap is able to come back down over the Velcro. Now with my second padding, I'm going to go right above the shelf. making sure it was right. So I'm going to set it right on top of the shelf. Gonna go around. Making sure it's nice and flat and even. And I'm gonna go as far as down so I can cover Velcro. I'm gonna start coming back up. And I want to make sure when I'm done with this track wrap, I want to make sure the Velcro is right above the knee. And then with a third track wrap, I'm going to just go back and cover this up. Make sure I go over. The Velcro from the last one so he can't come down and peel it off. Getting nice even tension. And I want to make sure I leave ½ an inch on top. And I want to end up at the top. So then when he comes down, he can't pull it off. And I would get masking tape and wrap around the Velcro and just wrap down a little bit just so then he can't, it's more steady on there. But make sure it does correct fit, is move it, even tension all the way down. Now we're going to talk about wound care. We would first clean the leg off and the wound off with the Novosan solution. And just like clean it out really good and then clean it and then make sure it's fully dry. And then we would get a towel pad and we would put it on the slick side, not the cotton side. And we can either put the ointment on the towel pad or directly onto the wound. And then once we put the towel pad on, we would put some gauze on. We would not put it too tight because it can cord the horse. And we don't want to put it on too loose because then there's no point of the towel pad type. And keep the ointment on the wound because it would just fall. And if it was up here, our wound was up here, we would be thinking of a stack wrap. And if it was further down, we'd be thinking of a standing wrap. Majority of the time we'll use cotton roll, gauze roll, and vet wrap. We don't use that here because the cotton will stick to the wound and make it a little bit more gross looking. And the vet wrap, if used incorrectly here, you can cord the horse. And usually you're going to want to keep your bandaging on for 12 hours and then change, unless your vet says otherwise. And for sweats, you want to make sure you do 12 hours during the daytime so you can watch to see how it is reacting with the horse, and cold poultices during the night. So to wrap a hoof, If it loses its shoe, you just want to clean out the hoof, put the diaper on, put the wrap around it, just making sure it stays on the hoof and not getting on the hair. And then you would get a duct tape square, which is just 8 pieces of duct tape, 4 going this way and then 4 going this way. And then you would put it on the bottom of that and just pull it up. But if it was an abscess, you would soak the foot in Epsom salt. Once that's done, you want to dry it off, clean it off, and then put medication on if you need it. And then you just put the diaper on just around the hoofs, right along here. Come on. Just wrap it just like so, keeping it on. And then you would just get the vet wrap and just wrap it around. And then you would get, once the vet wrap's on, get your square and you just place it on. And that's how you would do a hoof wrapping. So throughout the video, I showed safety between just being down on the tops of my toes and not fully on my knees, so if the horse did come at me, I could move away. But I know if you're older in age and you just can't be on your feet like that, you can put one foot knee down, but make sure you get away quickly. And if you do have a naughty horse or you just need help, you can have a handle holding the horse, or have them hold the opposite leg if it's on the front, and if it's on the back, you want to have it on the same side, but they're holding your leg. And throughout, what we did talk about in the video was the polo, the standing, the stack, and wound care, and how to bandage a hoof. Thank you for your time. I hope you all have a good day.